Come here. Hi. Are we on?
Yes.
Yes, great. And Tiki's here with us. Um, so, hello and happy Thursday. So, Tiki and I are going to make a lovely bracelet today. It's inspired by summer, it's inspired by flowers, and it is called Charming Garden Bracelet. So we had kind of a funny start here. Tiki was a little anxious about being on camera. He does like to make jewelry though. So I think we are going to, well, we'll just play it by ear. So again, sorry about that. So, and it is a very, for me, it's kind of a very happy bracelet that celebrates summer. So, let me show you what we're making. And again, this is called Charmed Garden Bracelet. So the charm, I'm just gathering my thoughts here. The charm trend is still really, really strong. It's a wonderful trend. It's all about moving parts and making jewelry that is kinetic. And Tiki, what do you think about this bracelet? Would you wear it? Does it smell delicious? Okay. So, so Tiki likes it, and you never know. Maybe I will make him one too. So we are going to make and we have a few leaves as well, and some little metal accents. And we're just going to use some of the very, very basic techniques in jewelry construction, which are wrapped loops and opening and closing jump rings. But this is a really good opportunity to talk about sizing, to talk about design. So this is a little bit like back to basics. And we'll touch on a few things that people often ask me about, like how do you pick colors? How do you pick shapes? How do you put things together? Some of those really wonderful basics that we all go back to as we design. And again, it's a super, super quick and easy project with a lot of movement, and clearly, color-wise, it goes with nearly anything.
Ellen says, hi, Irina and everyone.
Hi, Ellen. Thanks for joining us today.
Fonda says, good evening, everyone. Happy Thursday. I love Tiki. Sorry.
And thank you so much for joining us today.
Althea says, hi, Irina, Tony, and jewelry friends. Nice to see you at the store.
Oh, it was so wonderful to see you, Althea. I love your sunflower t-shirt. And I hope you had an awesome day. I did notice your earrings too. As I was walking away, I was like, those charms look so cute.
Trudy says, hi, everyone.
Hi, Trudy. And thanks. So let's talk a little bit about design. There's really not a whole lot to this project. It is so quick. And it's literally, for the most part, just one technique. So, this is something that I do a lot of the time when I make bracelets. In fact, I have 3 bracelets on, and each one of them has some version of an extender chain. And this bracelet is going to have a little bit of a built-in extender chain. So it's very easy to size, and whether you're making it for yourself or perhaps you're making it for someone else, you don't know their exact size. You know, even if you do know somebody's exact size, sometimes you stack bracelets and you want it to be just a little bit larger. Sometimes we gain a little weight, sometimes we lose a little weight. And so it's nice to have some of our bracelets be adjustable. So that's exactly what we're doing today. But, fun colors and design, all of that good stuff.
Kim K says hi, friends, and sends flowers.
Hi, Kim. Thank you so much for the flowers.
Betty says, oh, I love the puppy. That's cool.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, he just jumped off the chair. He was so good. He did sit next to me for a few minutes, and now he's off. He's probably off to make jewelry. Okay, ladies. So we have a little jump ring. Oh, and I do have something to say actually about this jump ring. But first, let's use the jump ring to connect it to connect our clasp. And I am using a swivel clasp for this bracelet because, when you have a swivel clasp, whichever way your bracelet turns, your clasp is still laying really nicely. And with a lot of, here, let me show you, with a lot of moving parts. Sometimes your flowers flip, everything is wanting to flip. It's nice. Do you see how I'm just turning it and nothing is happening to the chain? So that's a really nice feature either for a multi-strand bracelet or for a bracelet that has a lot of moving parts, because we simply don't want it to do something like this where our chain twists and then everything just doesn't look quite right. So with a swivel clasp, okay, so all I'm going to do is just take this jump ring and I'm going to open it using my chain nose and my flat nose. And as I do this, I always hold my chain nose and flat nose at a 90-degree angle. This is the best way to do it. And so we're going to open the jump ring, and as I open it, I push the two sides just ever so slightly closer together. And this is so that when I close the jump ring, there's no gap whatsoever. So I'm going to again use and I never let go with one of the tools. And now with my flat nose pliers, I'm just going to bring it right back. And you heard the little snap. And that's a wonderful thing. That means that there's no room whatsoever between the two sides of my jump ring. So speaking of this jump ring, this is a jump ring that, a jump ring is a very small component, and you would think, who cares what kind of jump ring? But actually it's a very important component, because sometimes I hear from people, oh, I don't like to use jump rings because I feel like they're going to open. Well, if you use jump rings in a very tiny gauge, let's say 22 gauge or 24 gauge jump rings, yes, those will open. This is an 18 gauge jump ring, which is a nice heavy gauge. And also the type of metal really matters. And these are beautiful jump rings. These are those same jump rings that are made in Greece. This bracelet only uses one. But the reason I am mentioning this particular type of jump ring is because I have actually made a few kits with these already, and we've talked about it a little bit. And as I mentioned before, I only got enough jump rings for me to try them in these kits. I did not actually place an order for the store. I know there's one person who expressed that she really wants them. I'm kind of here, I'm waiting to hear from a few people. Like, are you excited about these jump rings? Do you feel that they are the same as everything else? Is this only exciting to me? Because if it is only exciting to me, I'm not going to get them for the store, because they're slightly more expensive than the jump rings we have been carrying. I do feel that they're quite a bit better, and If you have any particular feelings about them, please let me know. And if I don't hear from, a few people, I'm probably just going to say, oh, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just obsessed with jump rings and maybe it doesn't matter. So, but if you do want to see them in the store, if you do want to see them online, please let me know. Okay, so that's all about the jump rings. And so as of right now, we have actually just made a bracelet just by attaching our clasp. Because, all we need to do is just have a clasp, and when we have a chain with these really nice large links, that's it. This is our bracelet. So this is kind of the skeleton of our bracelet. And you have this long, well, it depends on the size of your wrist. So with this kit, you're able to make a bracelet up to about, at this point, just cut some of the chain off. So that's entirely up to you. You can leave just maybe a couple of links past your desired length, or maybe a few more links. And this way, whoever you're making it for, it is very likely to fit, because literally you can link into any one of these links. It's built in. Very easy to use, except for when you're showing it to the camera and I'm holding it in the opposite direction than I normally would. But here we go.
Karen says, good evening.
Hi, Karen. Good evening.
Kathy G says, I will spend more to get better. More money to get better jump rings.
Oh, that's what you're talking about. So, and have you tried these particular jump rings? I don't even remember at this point which other kits I've used it for, but that's good feedback.
Kim K says, I like good quality heavy jump rings.
Awesome. Thank you.
And Althea says, I like these jump rings. They're strong.
Oh, thank you so much. So, good. I'm so glad, Althea, you're referring to these particular jump rings. Okay, cool. And so please also know that it will take us a while. Like it could be a month or it could be 2 months before we actually get them for the store, because they're made in Greece. Okay, my friends. So when you get this kit, you will have all sorts of these little treasures, and this is where design comes in. So I have a few kind of loose rules that I follow as I design these types of bracelets. So, but it also has a lot of color. And then some beads are a little larger, some beads are a little smaller. And so if we are going to make everything, oh, and by the way, there's only one of each bead, so nothing repeats in this kit. So if we are to make this fairly well balanced looking, we're going to kind of winging. A lot of the time I just wing, but for something like this, I don't want to wing. So what I like to do is just lay my beads out, and my strategy is essentially it's big bead, little bead. And since we have 4 metal components, the components could all be used within the bracelet, or they could be used in the bauble. Like in this sample, I used 3 little baubles, and you can use 1, you can use 3. And so let's just start playing with our beads, and I'll show you exactly how I do it. So since I have 4 little metal beads, I might just distribute them somewhat even, and it doesn't have to be exact, but somewhat equidistant. Okay, so this seems to be one of the largest beads, so I'm just going to put it in the center. So here we have a little leaf, and here we'll have a little bead cap. And if you notice, to keep things balanced, when I get to the very ends of the bracelet, that is where I tend to use some of my smallest beads. So the other little thing to keep in mind is some of these are actually stacked. So for example, cap that looks like a flower, what I might do is just take this beautiful little Swarovski bicone and put it in that flower. But you know, if you want to play around, it's not that you have to have exactly the same order of beads, but you can play, you can experiment and see how you like perhaps this fuchsia bead. So you can just decide on how you want to use each one of these components. So once I have my centerpiece, I am just going to start grabbing beads in contrasting color, because this is about color. This is about, you know, it just kind of looks like a garden, right? So I have a purple flower in the center, and then I have a blue leaf, and then I have this is kind of a greenish, kind of a sage green leaf, and then maybe I'll take this marigold color flower, and that is a little bit larger, so that's great. But then I don't necessarily want to have two components that are very similar in shape. That does not look right to me. So what I just might do is maybe I will swap it with this little blue flower. That will make me happy. And since we have a little blue flower in between these two, I'm no longer bothered by a similar shape. So it's not that I say all these things, it just sort of happens, you know? As I design, it just sort of happens. As I'm looking for contrast, I'm looking for contrast in color, as well as size, as well as shape. And so I just place this little leaf here, and I still have quite a few components. So as of right now, we're not really worried about the pieces corresponding to the chain. We're just working on the order. So perhaps so what I'm trying to do here is add in some of the larger components before I get to the very ends. And because, you know, that's important, since we don't want to have the big chunky beads at the very end. And so now I have a little leaf here, I have a end. So although yes and no, because I don't necessarily want to have two leaves next to one another, so I will separate them by a flower. Okay, so now I'm looking at this, and somehow my metal components, I just ended up with one. So we will just move things a little bit. And is this fun to kind of deconstruct how we actually, people will ask me about my process. So this is essentially what I'm sharing with you right now. So I just placed a little metal component, and that is making me happy right where it is. It's also making me happy, and I'll show you where it is on my existing sample. So it's making me happy. It's a little pop of color from that little crystal in the center, and I will keep that part exactly as I have it in my so here maybe we could use something that is a little bit larger, like perhaps we could maybe grab this flower, although now we're really getting into a lot of the same flowers on the same side. So maybe let's do a little swapping. So okay, this is really making me happy right now. So with pieces like this, send them out before I get started. So now we still have our little trumpet flower, or at least to me it looks like a little trumpet flower. And I could probably use a little something right here because I have two chunky pieces next to one another, and that makes me happy. So, I've talked before about making a color puddle. So before we started laying out all these ideas of what might possibly go into this bracelet, just start out with a little color puddle.
Lori says, just joining. Hello, Irina and Tony.
Hi, Lori, and thank you so much for joining us today. So I feel like, just to maybe mix things up a little bit, change things a little bit, I really would like to put this little butterfly. Now, if you wanted to do something a little bit different with the bauble, we could always put a larger flower. Instead of 3 small components, we could have one larger component, and visually it would sort of do something very similar. And then I have this little heart, and I feel like that should go at the end somewhere. So you get the idea, and it's quite possible that these and the metal bead cap is a little bonus component. So that actually makes a really nice little bauble, right? And we change things a little bit, and you can either change it or you can follow exactly the order of my beads if you so choose. So, you will have a picture exactly the same, or you can play with your beads, which is always great fun for me. Okay, ladies, so that is pretty much my process. I start out with a lovely color puddle that just makes me happy. More often than not, I do like to add a few metal components because anything that has a little metal component, it looks a little bit more contemporary, it looks more interesting. There's just more to look at. And then color-wise, you try to balance. And that...
Keep cutting out.
Oh, I'm so sorry,
Yeah, we have
Lori.
a storm moving through right now.
Yes, ladies, we had a crazy, crazy storm just the other day, and we're expecting more storms. But I have to tell you, this is actually going to be a very quick little project. And so, if the storm interrupts us, let's just try to. So, once you got all of your beads in order, then I'm going to start working on the bracelet. And as you can see, the chain consists of big loops and little loops. So there's nothing that's going to be hanging from the little loops. And if we want a really good cohesive look with a chain like this, we're going to only attach to one side of the chain. So you pick your favorite side. I'm going to pick the side that is towards me because of course that's going to be easier for me to work on it. And I'm going to attach everything starting with the very first loop. So one thing you want to kind of ponder a little bit, if you have a very tiny wrist size, you may need to eliminate some beads. But you can decide that the piece, I will tell you, as soon as I find my ruler, I will tell you how long my bracelet is. So the total length of this bracelet is 8¼ inches. And out of that, there are 6¼ inches that have beads on each link. So if you put a bead through each link, you will have, well, depending on how you use the beads, you can have up to about 6.5 inches of beads. So you plan accordingly. So now I'm just going to remind you how we make wrapped loops, because that's all there is as far as finishing this bracelet. So I'm using a lovely little ball pin on which we string the bead, and when we make wrapped loops, we always leave a little bit of space. And that is so that we have space to wrap into. So I just made a 90-degree angle with my chain nose pliers, and now I'm going to use my bail making pliers, making a loop. And when you make the loop, you're essentially making the first half of the loop. We make it a point not to unbend that 90-degree angle. So we make the first half of the loop with the tool, with our bail making pliers, and then we finish it with our hand just by crossing over, just like that, and at this point we have to remind ourselves to string our little component into, okay, doesn't want to go in because I made it too tight. Okay, now we're in. So we string our component right into the first, oh my gosh. Link, thank you. I was thinking ring, I don't know, it was link. And then holding on with our chain nose pliers, we are simply going to coil into that little opening by hand. So we can either cut the wire off now because we have filled that little opening. So you only want to go as far as you can to fill the little opening, and the opening should be 1.5 to 2 millimeters, no more than that. Maybe even one. I'll revise that. 1 millimeter to 1.5. And then if you want to make a slightly organic loop, we're now going to go from the bead to the loop. So we're actually going to coil right over our first set of coils. And why do we want to do this? Well, we might like the aesthetic of it, but also it makes it just ever so slightly stronger. Now, on some of these, you might have to be a little careful in order to use all of the wire because some of the beads don't make very large loops. And once we have created our coil, we are simply going to give it a little pinch with the very end of our chain nose pliers so that it is not a weapon. And there is our first little charm.
Fonda says it's cutting out for her too.
Oh no, I'm so sorry, you guys. Okay, you know what? We're just going to maybe do one more. And then I'm going to talk about the and because I really don't want to lose you guys before I'm done. So at this point, we're just going to go in order. And, so string your next bead right onto the ball pin. And again, the same exact way, we are going to make a loop. And once we make the loop, just remember, you might wrap the loop not to make those little coils until you put it into the next link. And because we're trying to do this a little bit quickly, I'm not even going to bother wrapping it, because it's going to be exactly the same. But what I really wanted to show you is, do you see how they're both on the same side of the chain? That is the most important thing, well, one of the most important things to me, because it makes for a really cohesive look. If some of them are on one side of the chain and others are on the other side of the chain, it doesn't make for a cohesive look. Okay, and then once, and I'm going to cheat a little bit again because of the coming storm, so I'm just going to remove this from here. And when you are ready to size your bracelet, you cut it to whatever length you want, or perhaps you leave the entire length. At the very end of the bracelet, all we need to do is the same thing. You can choose to just use one bead, or you can use 3 beads, and we're just going to coil it in the very, very same way. And let me show you my bauble, and then I'm going to point out where I'm using more than one component. So like this, for example, is more than one component. It's the bead cap and the bead. I'm sure some of you have done this a schmillion times.
Looks like Lori and Karen are getting storms too.
Oh yeah, well, you know what, ladies, we have weathered many storms and we will weather many more. So please be safe. Okay, my friends, so this is what my bauble looks like. So a couple of quick things. The way I so here, let me show you how this hangs. And you can see that every one of these little components hangs from the same side. And that is what I'm talking about. You know, it does make a cohesive look. Okay, so just a quick reminder, when you use this little flower, I kind of like this little flower just because it reminds me of a daisy. You can use it with the 3mm Swarovski bicone. And when you use this flower, and we've already done this, but let's do it again. So this 6mm bicone fits beautifully in this metal flower. And then I thought that the 6mm round faceted bead, the beautiful fuchsia one, that looks super, super cute when you put a bead cap on it. It reminds me of a very teeny tiny acorn. And so as you lay everything out, consider using them the way that I did. And I believe that is all there is. Other than that, you can use your beads however you want to. You can mix where I get to play with my beads. Okay, ladies. So, well, that's it for our project, unless you have questions for me. If you do, I am still here. So let me know. In the meantime, I do have some announcements and previews. So tomorrow, hopefully the storm is over when I do the shopping event video tomorrow, because I have some gorgeous, gorgeous pearls to show you. So here, I'm just going to give you a very little teeny preview. We'll move some things around. And so this is what we made today. And can you hear my puppy snoring? You know, he does not care about storms. He just sleeps. And we're very lucky because I have friends whose dogs get very, very unhappy when it storms. Okay, so tomorrow is going to be an entire pearl extravaganza with a few little surprises. So I am only showing you a couple of pearls. We have some faceted pearls. We have some gorgeous coin pearls. So tomorrow is going to be a really fun pearl event. And this, of course, is going to be tomorrow, June 27th at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. So please do join me. I have some really fun surprises, and some of them are even very patriotic in red, white, and blue. And then on Monday, I don't have anything to show you for Monday, but those of you who enjoy stitching kits, I have an amazing collection of stitching kits that we have acquired, and I have been showing it on Mondays. Enjoy stitching. Please do join me for that. So I do want to remind you, there's no video next Thursday or Friday because we're all going to be celebrating the 4th of July, and we'll be watching parades and fireworks and eating burgers and red, white, and blue cupcakes and all that good stuff. Tony perked up, when I said cupcakes. And and so again, no video next Thursday or Friday. There is a video, however, next Monday. And then, as I mentioned before, I'm not doing Thursday videos every Thursday. So I just wanted to let you know that my next Thursday video is going to be, when is it?
It's July 31st.
Thank you, Tony. It's July 31st.
And that's
going to be, that's going to be the whimsical dragonfly sun catchers. And we made dragonfly sun catchers last summer. Here, I think I'll just hold them for now. And so they were actually very, very popular, but I ran out of dagger beads, and so we couldn't make more. So we got more dagger beads in, and we are going to be making fun little dragonfly sun catchers that look something like this.
Fonda says her dog doesn't like storms.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know. I remember talking about that. Yeah, Fonda's doggy doesn't like storms, and Sandy, who works here, her dog gets so terrified of storms. So I feel for you guys, but we're very, very lucky with Tiki because he can sleep through anything, just like me. So
Lori says, thank you so much. Be safe through your storm.
Thank you so much, Lori, and everybody who is expecting a storm. I hope you guys are safe. And please join me tomorrow at 9 o'clock for some cool pearls. And in the meantime, have a wonderful and creative year. That's my fear.
Betty says, I have a lab mastiff that is scared of storms. Mommy has to be close, really big baby.
Oh, and a lab mastiff would be a big baby. But, there are babies. We do what we need to do for them, right?
Kim K says, cute bracelet. Thanks so much for sharing.
Thank you so much, my friend.
For the storms.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yes. Well, good luck, everybody. Good luck with your storms and your sweet puppies. I hope everybody is okay through the storm. And I will see you tomorrow morning. Have an awesome evening, hopefully with electricity.